All right, hello and welcome to the Long Dark. What I'm going to be doing today is, well, first off, there's a couple things I'm doing. First off, I'm not just going to try to survive as long as I can. I'm going to set a specific goal, in which case, I'm going to traverse from near the Quonset hut in Coastal Highway to the airport. One of the main characters, is a pilot. If he's stuck out in the middle of nowhere, that would actually be what he'd try to do. He'd try to get to an airport. As I go, one of the things I am going to do is talk a lot about how this game differs from what experts tell you. Whether things taught to me by a survival instructor or things I've read, or just personal knowledge about certain things. As we go about that, we will see just what the new things are. One of the other things I find kind of interesting is in Interloper, they take away certain things that honestly you'd still find, like knives and axes. You're gonna find those everywhere in some place like wrong way, in some place that's like, a very cold Canada. Mm. Mm. Now there's some other things that there's a couple things that whenever I play a game like this, I have to wonder just what were they thinking? I mean, it's a survival game. You start off with almost nothing. But if you're going up to some place, that's this cold, you're gonna have, heavier clothing. You're gonna have stuff with you. I mean, the plane wreck kind of says, "Oh, well, that's actually the case." He got out with whatever he was just wearing, which in this case is a sweatshirt, jeans. At least he has a scarf and mittens. But in all honesty, he'd probably be wearing a parka or something similar. When you're in a plane, or a little puddle jumper like that, it doesn't have nuts. Double nuts. I don't even have a damn flare to throw at that little bugger. That means I gotta get into a building fast. Anyway, as I was saying before, I had to ditch that wolf. Well, first off, they already say it. Hey, guess what? Most wolves won't actually act like this. And that's true. Even the bears. Most of the time, bears are going to leave you alone.
I think I can use this.
Loud noises, fire will normally keep them away from you. So, the bears being angry and coming after you right away, not a normal occurrence. Now, that being said, if you ever run into a bear and it's got its kid with it, just get away from it. Just run. You're not gonna be able to do anything. That bear will want to kill you because it's gonna be protecting its kid. Now, again, as I was saying before, seriously, no jacket. I mean, the scarf is a good thing. Gloves, but a pair of beat up dress shoes. They're regular socks. Honestly, if it wasn't for the mittens and the scarf, I think the guy was in California at like mid fall when it's just starting to get not warm. And I know this will come up when we start doing repairs as soon as I'd rather find a And that's a bear. And that is probably the worst place I could spawn in the game right now.
I could use this.
Just, oh look, there's a wolf and a bear. And, well, that kind of start is never good in this kind of game. And then you take to the fact that, oh, well, it's freezing cold. You're not, you're not supplied with anything. I mean, I still don't have a knife, crowbar. I'll double check. Yeah, I got some fishing tackle, a can. I found 2 rounds of revolver ammo, but I don't have much else. And I'm going to eat something. Now, a lot of people, when they play the Long Dark, you'll see them... oh, yeah, smashed open. You'll see them, wait until they start getting hungry and then eat. Generally speaking, unless you know you're going to go a long time without eating anything, it's better to eat right away and deal with being hungry later on. And given that, let's wait out that damn bear. Now, in all honesty, if you have someplace you can hide out and there's a bear running around, that's actually a smart idea. Just give it an hour or two, let the bear get bored and decide to go by. Unless there's a kill for it to eat right outside, it's probably going to keep going. Listen for noises, however, because there's 2 kinds of bears in Northern America. There are the black bears and there are the brown bears.
What have we here?
Brown bears are what you call what end up being grizzlies. I mean, technically, if you go up north into Alaska, you start finding things like Kodiaks and polar bears. But in most places, it's just going to be brown and black bears. Brown bears and black bears, well, there's some interesting things. And in all honesty, with a black bear, unless you've run into one while it's protecting its kid, it will probably leave you alone because it's really just a 300-pound trash panda. In most places where there are a lot of black bears, what you don't see are a lot of attacks. What you do see are a lot of busted garbage cans and messes made by them just going around and getting in the garbage cans. Now that we're getting somewhere, let's take a few things down. Now the repair skill is kind of, it's kind of strange in how it actually works, but I think that's just a good approximation for the fact that we're playing a video game and not actually in possession of a really detailed way of doing all this stuff. Most repairs you do with a sewing kit, you'd actually just be stitching up holes. You wouldn't be using cloth or much. You might use the cloth as a backing, where you cut out a piece of cloth that goes behind a cut or tear in it, and then sew the tear together using the cloth backing as an additional medium to keep it solid. And now I've got some food, got some reclaimed wood. Now let's see if I run into, I don't see a bear right outside, which is good because I'm going to make a fire. Now, making a fire, this is one of those things that you look at, it's like a 35% chance to start it. Yeah, actually, that's about right. People who don't know how to make fire either have to douse it in an accelerant or do something similar to, get a decent fire going. Back. And actually, one of the funniest ones is the using a fire striker. Using a fire striker should not always give you a bonus. Fire strikers are great, but if you've never started a fire using a fire striker, all you're going to be is frustrated. They are not easy to use. So honestly, it should kind of start having that advantage once you have a couple levels in fire starting, as opposed to, right off the bat. And now, for navigation, because this is something that is starting to go on right now that you should know. Navigating when there is, either no map or you're completely lost, you don't have a compass, you don't have some way of finding your way around. What do? Well, you look for certain things to follow. And the things you follow are things like, roads, rivers, train tracks, and power lines. Now, as far as the rivers go, early settlements always were near fresh water because good plumbing didn't come about till later. So if you find a natural river, you follow it. You go downstream, you're either going to find a lake, and if you find a lake, there should be some kind of settlement, or in the modern day, at the very least, there'll be a resort or something. And if you're lost in the wilderness, follow that river, find that big thing of water. You should probably find yourself some place to stay. If not, you're probably in a national park, and in which case, if you're in a national park, you're kind of in the same deal. You're probably going to find a camp trail, and you now have a road to follow. Also, any serious-sized river, you will probably eventually come across a bridge. Bridges, anything like that, they're all, they're all useful for finding your way around. Now, I'm carrying this torch because in this game, whenever you run into a wolf, you need something to scare it off. If you don't have something you can kill it with. And I didn't start with any road flares or anything like that. So all I got right now is a torch. But burning torch is in fact enough to scare off your average wolf. I'm going to run around here. And as always, look for anything useful. As far as things like sticks. Sticks are pretty easy to find. And breaking them down while you can do it with a tool is not required. Nor even that useful a lot of the time. First thing you do is if you have a big... I need that right now. So the first thing you do is... starting a fire. I lost my train of thought there. Just started searching. No, I'll get back to this. So, searching through somebody's kitchen. In all honesty, it's illegal just about everywhere you go, and
there's got to be something useful in here.
And just about any situation. However, if you're in this kind of situation where you're out in the middle of nowhere and you find a house, most of the people probably won't begrudge you too much. Now, there are people who would, so I wouldn't count on it. But if you're stuck and freezing and don't have anywhere to go, you're probably better off dealing with the possible legal consequences later than starving or freezing to death on your way. Now, the toilet water. You can get water from a toilet. And matter of fact, if you're doing urban survival, this is a decent practice. The difference is I'm not getting the water from here in the toilet. I'm getting the water from here. The water tank is simply that. It's just a tank that clean water goes into, and it builds up. And then when you flush, it actually just drops a plunger, and all that water flushes through, and gravity and a siphon effect clear out your toilet. So as long as you take it out of the tank, it should be relatively clean.
Hope I can still eat this.
But do take a look first. If you see stuff growing in the tank, then it's probably not actually clean. So, pay attention to that kind of stuff. At the same time, you might end up
This stuff will come
doing something that you would rather avoid doing normally. Although, as far as drinking water goes, I'd advise against it because there's things that would definitely be less than... they'd definitely be less than good for your body if you drink too much dirty water. So now that I've been going around a little bit and have some things, I'm going to start taking care of myself a bit. Fill up on something to drink. Eat a little something. Now, I'm going to talk about condition in this game, mostly because when I deal with the condition, sometimes I don't understand it. When you deal with something like, say, a soda, sodas last for months, if not years, once they're actually closed up. Same with a lot of the packaged foods, the things like the chips and the chips, the jerky, all that stuff. It lasts for a while. And actually, jerky is really going to last for a while because it's also dried, which is meant to help it last longer. And then they put those little packets in there of a desiccant in order to keep it dry while it's sitting there. This is great and is pretty good for keeping you your food nice and dry. Now, taking care of your food to dry it, or if you were up here, I'd probably be trying to smoke it instead of dry it, simply because you need really dry air, and if you don't have a dehydrator or something similar, you're more than likely going to let it start rotting as opposed to letting it dry and last longer. Smoking is a fairly simple process, but you want to practice it a bit before you just go out in the wilderness, kill yourself a couple rabbits and try to smoke it. But what you're going to be doing is... it's dark now. No. Alright. Let the match burn out, and we'll go to sleep for the night. Another mechanic that comes up a lot in this is the cabin fever mechanic. I really don't like the cabin fever mechanic because it's really simple, and it really understates how long it takes for understates how long and what kind of conditions it takes for cabin fever to sit in. cabin fever is caused by, being out on your own for an extended period of time. But the busier you are, the longer it takes to kick in. If you're, trying to keep yourself alive in the middle of nowhere, you're not going to have the same kind of issues that, say, somebody who's, snowed in and really isn't doing much more than, eating and sleeping does. Pork and beans, pork and beans. Well, I need to find me a tool or a I can't sleep right now, so let's pass some time. Oh yeah, calories are always interesting to me because you have a fairly what is the right word? You have a fairly static rate of calorie consumption in this game, which really is, I mean, it's going to change a lot based on your movement. And, you're running on like a 20, and I just did something stupid, and well, I'm gonna have to pay for that one. That was just me messing up. Instead of trying to repair it like I was thinking, I tore it up. And I don't have anything else I can use to cover that up for the moment. So now, I'll sleep an hour. And hopefully they'll be light enough that I can get out of here and get to the next place and get something that's, where I can actually find some better gear. Now, I know it's turned down, but not finding any kind of jacket or anything similar when going through a house in some place like this where you know that it's going to get cold every year. I mean, they have ice fishing huts ready. So, okay, yeah, there's going to be cold. It just seems kind of silly that you're not finding more. And another. Another wolf. Well, probably the same wolf. Yeah, just so you know, for most people, if you're stuck in this kind of situation, well, hopefully you're not stuck in this kind of situation. If you're going up to, a place where it snows on a regular basis, you should have things like, an emergency blanket. You should have a knife, a hatchet, tinder, maybe some accelerant, definitely, a light, at the very least a lighter or some matches, if not a fire starter. You want things that you can use in case of issue. Now, some people are very they're very uncaring of risk, not realizing that this is actually a pretty big risk for you to do something. Let's get away from that. There is... I do not see... Scheiße. Well, now I'm in trouble. That's right. I
Can't
had...
feel my hands.
I forgot about doing that. I had some raw rabbit on me, which I just dropped, which actually might not be a bad idea. Most predators, if they come across something that's a decent-sized meal, will stop to eat it because, well, they're predators, and that's their first thought when finding something that would count as food. If I was being chased by a wolf and I found a car that I could get into, I would certainly get in there and wait the damn thing out. No, hypothermia.
Too cold to think.
I need... Now, using a book to start a fire isn't a bad idea. Just a little paperback or something similar will work. Although, I'd try to avoid doing that too often.
Fire's life out here.
Especially if you're dealing with something like long term, because I don't know about you, but if your brain's getting bored, I think one of the first things I'd want to do is have something to read. I know some people are going to be... Oh, light the damn thing. Put it away. Alright. Extinguish it. Put it out. Grab a third one. Hopefully this is enough to get my way to someplace useful. Now, given the sheer number of wolves they have here, I'd expect something wrong, because you'd expect the wolves to either range or to be a pack. It could just be they're a wide-ranging pack, but that is not good news for you. But since I know my way around this from previous plays of the game, I know this is where I'm going. In all honesty, if I didn't know where I was, I'd have gone for the road, and then I'd have had a 50-50 shot of turning which way or that. And I probably would have turned right, simply because I would have turned right first because I'm right-handed. But having a road to follow is definitely safer for you and for finding your way about. Alright, so we're going to search this place out real quick.
That'll come in handy.
Flares are useful, especially when dealing with wild animals, and they really are. Most of the time, if you have something like a torch, most wild animals will leave you alone. And there are exceptions always to rules, but more likely than not, you're gonna be safer with that flare running. Now, I'm grabbing bunches and bunches of sodas here. You know, some people will say, "Oh, that's not unhealthy." Technically, yes, but in a survival situation, you're more worried about the number of calories you have than anything else. So, yeah, if you find a soda, drink it. It'll give you it'll get some water in your system, and it'll give you some calories, which are generally the things that you run out of first when you're in a survival situation. And generally the thing you run out of quickest. If you're not moving, not doing anything important, you're still going to go through, 2,000, 2,500 calories a day. If you're searching for something or walking for long distances, for long periods of day or night, you're talking more, 3 to 4,000
Nobody needs
calories.
this anymore.
So, as always, pay attention, be careful, and if you find a candy bar, eat it. If you find a soda, eat it. Oh, very good. That is something nice to find. A nice, thick jacket. Now, I don't know why the work gloves really are warmer than they should be. Work gloves are pretty good for the protection, and they'll cut a lot of wind. What they won't do is actually keep you really warm. You get sweaty in them, but that's more because you're warm and they don't breathe very well. Now, I've already swapped out so that I have the trail boots, which were a lot better than the standard, basically a pair of wingtips. I mean, that's what you wear when you go to work in an office with a pair of slacks, not something you wear when you're marching about. Whereas trail boots, much better. They're much more water resistant. They're probably warmer. They're probably tougher. Now I'm in a pretty good one. One of those big coats are actually pretty warm. I don't know if it's supposed to be a winter coat for the Canadian military. It's not quite the same as what we use here in America. But, oh, and a hunting knife. Excellent. Finding that hunting knife is a really good thing. And that hunting knife is actually really standard design. There is a company that makes knives like that called Mora. They're kind of like not the gold standard, but they're kind of like the good measuring stick of a survival knife. When you compare it to a Mora, if it's more expensive than a Mora, it needs to be better than one. A Mora is one of those knives that's a good blend of value and quality. You can find better knives. Generally, they're going to be more expensive. You can find cheaper knives, but they're probably going to be less. They're probably going to be a bit less useful to you. Oh, hello. Pale Green 303. Trucker companion, durable, friendly, open road, reliable beyond all else. All right, so this is a 303 rifle. It is, in fact, a SMLE, which stands for Short Model Lee Enfield. These were very commonly used during World War II by the British forces, and would probably have been sold a bunch to civilians once they started upgrading. And, there you go. It's sewing primer. Cardboard boxes. That SMLE is probably the most likely rifle you'd find. Military surplus weapons, at least until very recently, are basically dropped on the public in large amounts. They come out
stash.
They come out fairly cheaply, so you can, afford one. And the ammo they've made in gigantic lots because, hey, they needed enough to provide to a military. So yeah, you are pretty well set with a military surplus rifle like that. I did check both of those. Now, I found a decent place. I found some good gear. I'm now gonna start setting this up as my first base. I know I need to go somewhere, but whenever you're doing something like this, you're gonna find that you're gonna set up base camps as you go along to go out, find your food, find everything you need before you continue on. There's a lot of stuff that you can forage, but foraging takes time, and you need some place to do it from. If you're gonna try to, I want to go out, live in a log cabin someplace in the middle of nowhere, you're gonna have to bring a lot of stuff with you. And quite honestly, you're probably gonna have to bring seeds. You're gonna have to plant stuff, and you're going to have to forage a lot. You're going to need a shovel. You're going to need a knife. You're going to need an axe. You're probably going to need more than one axe. You're going to need sharpening stones. You're going to need, well, I'd say you're going to need a firearm. Some people say you don't. If you don't want to carry a firearm, you might want to get a crossbow or a powerful hunting bow. But whatever you do, you're going to need something to hunt with, to protect yourself with. And I'm going to call it here. Now that I've taken an hour's sleep, that'll save me. I'd like to thank you all for coming to my first video. If you do the like and subscribe thing. If you want to help me out, there'll be a couple links in the description. And thank you very much for joining me, and have a good day. Bye.